Hi everyone, thank you for joining me today. I'm Lady Rose of Goddess Garage, and I do a lot of tarot and deck reviews, and I want to do more because I've had a lot of requests from people. I am always being asked, have you used this deck? Do you like this deck? What's this deck about? That sort of thing. So I'm hoping to put up more videos, but in the meantime, between all these questions that I'm being asked, I realized I hadn't really done a review for either of my main working decks, as I call them. So these are decks that I use all the time. I'm a full-time professional tarot reader. I'm also a master tarot reader. So as a master tarot reader, I tend to have a couple of decks that I'm always going to. These are the ones that I do or use when I'm doing a reading kind of thing. Now I do switch it up, obviously, but when it's just like, I just got to do a reading here, let's do one, I do tend to use two main decks. One is a tarot deck and one is an oracle deck. And yes, I do mix tarot and oracle decks. Sometimes I do triple and quadruple deck readings. So you can mix it up because I get asked that question a lot too. And if you are looking to purchase a deck or you want to know more about a deck because you're thinking about purchasing it, please visit my channel and see if I've got a review for that particular deck, or message me here or on my Facebook page, Goddess Garage Tarot Parlor, and ask me, because if I haven't done a review for it, I might have it in my stash because I have a fairly big stash of tarot and oracle decks. And I maybe just haven't gotten around to doing that review, so I could do I'd be happy to do a review. Or I'm always getting new tarot decks sent to me, oracle decks sent to me. Sometimes clients come in with decks, that sort of thing. Or I'm purchasing them as well. So it's sort of a combination of those things. So I acquire quite a few decks in a short amount of time. Now, like I said, I'm going to do the two working decks today. So I'm going to do the first deck, Moonology it's called. And that's my oracle deck that I tend to go to. And I'm going to do my gilded deck in the next video, because this is my main working deck that I use all the time. So like I said, message me if you're looking for a deck or thinking about purchasing a deck. Sort of what I do is I go through what the deck is like physically. Like these cards for the Moonology cards are nice and thick. Now I do tell clients when they're picking out cards, don't be afraid to dig because they are thick, and often clients will tend to, not be able to necessarily get them apart, especially if it's a new deck. This is not a new deck, so they slide apart fairly easily, but they're still pretty thick. Sometimes when clients pick them out, they think they've got two cards and they really only have one. So I'll let you know about that. They're a good sturdy card. So I go through some of that, and I'm going to go through a little bit more of that on the Moonology, and then I show you some of the cards. I don't sit and just run through each card. I've seen those tarot videos, boring as heck. I mean, it's nice to see the cards, but I hold a little back. I'll show you some of the cards. I'll talk about the feel of the deck, the energy around the deck, that sort of thing. But I'll hold some back, because if you're thinking about purchasing this deck, you want a little bit of a surprise. You want some cards that you haven't seen yet when you get your own personal deck. So that's what I do. I show you a lot of the cards, not all the cards, and I'll talk about the energy and how I tend to use the deck. So this is an oracle deck, and like I said, I use it with my main tarot deck. I mix the two, but I find this is a very special oracle deck. A lot of times I'll sort of jokingly say, if you can read, you can do oracle cards, because most oracle cards, I'll get a deck out here. So I haven't done a review for this deck either, but I will. This is an older deck. I've had this for 10 years almost. So it's a fairy deck. But most of the cards are like, integrity, and then there's a little message down below. So that's what I mean by if you can read, you can do oracle, because there's not always a lot of intuitiveness that's needed for oracle. I mean, there is some, definitely, but you get a lot of the main energy from whatever the message is. Like this is confidence, and then there's a little message. Considering it's a fairy deck, we haven't seen one fairy yet. Okay, so here's a fairy. Awareness. and then there's a little message. Again, this is not the deck I'm reviewing. I'm just showing you what an oracle deck is typically like. And if you can read, then you can do oracle, as I often jokingly say. Unlike tarot, where you've got like the strength card, which is a major arcana card. You've got the lovers here. There's not really a message necessarily written on there. Four of Pentacles. So there's more room for interpretation, for intuitiveness, for psychic powers, that sort of thing. It's good to know the tarot system and know what it means when the lovers turns up or whatever. I say tarot's like a language, because sometimes people, and this might cause some controversy, some people say, well, I just read them intuitively, that's how I learned. And I'm kind of like, that's kind of like saying you speak German intuitively. You gotta know the language and the rules of the language before you can bend those rules, because otherwise you're speaking German sort of intuitively. Same thing with tarot. Tarot is a language. It's like learning a language. So it's always good to study tarot. And when you go really deep in tarot, when I teach my course, I bring out some big books, not necessary for the course, but always suggested reading. And one of them is The Secret Doctrine, which is a big book about yay thick. And it's meditations on the tarot cards themselves. So there's a lot of depth, a lot of history, a lot of message behind each tarot card, and there's different kinds of messages. So tarot is a very rich kind of language to learn, and I would highly suggest, if you want to do tarot cards, to take a course. I have some lessons on tarot in my video collection there, and I do teach tarot, so if you want to get in touch, feel free. But in the meantime, we're going to go on and talk about the Moonology deck. So it's a nice box. It's from Hay House, and it's done by Yasmin Boland, and she's a very well-known, award-winning astrologist. She does also through Hay House, and I'll put the links for all of these below if you want to get any of them, for Astrology Made Easy. So there's a whole series of books called blah 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 Made Easy. So they're the Made Easy series, and I've got a number of those Made Easy series books. I really like them because I find they give you very straightforward, very clear kind of, this is what this is and here's how to sort of get started in doing it. I wouldn't say they're in depth by any means. They're definitely surface introductions, but they are nice, clean, clear kind of introductions. So that's what I really like about them. And when you open the box, even the box is decorated with stars, and on the top it says, "Let the moon be your guide." So I really like that. The artist of Moonology is Nyx Rowan. So she's done all the artwork on this. This is a good sturdy box. It comes with a book. I highly recommend, most people kind of browse through the book a little bit, maybe open it to look at a particular card kind of thing. As a professional, you tend to not use the book. If you're still using the book, you know, try not to use the book when you're actually doing a reading on somebody. That's why the books are there, for you to study and do some memorization. Good old memorization. I highly recommend reading this book though, because Yasmin's very good at not only explaining each card and sort of categorizing them for you, but she explains the phases of the moon. I also have a video that you can watch. It's called The Moon and Her Magic, and it's about the phases of the moon, and what each phase is about, what the energy is about, what to look for. Part of the reason I did that video was because locally a lot of moon circles on the full moon were doing releasing exercises, and that's not really what the full moon is about. The full moon is about gratitude, making wishes, and forgiveness. So you can forgive, definitely, and that is a form of releasing in a way, but it's mostly about gratitude and making wishes. That's generally the energy of the full moon. And I talk about each phase and what it's all about and how many days you have in each phase, because some people feel like the full moon is on this day and that's it, you know. No, the moon she knows us well. She knows we have a busy schedule and we can't always make it on that day. So, and Yasmin, like I said, is very good at explaining everything. So I highly recommend doing more than a browse through this book. Use it as a textbook to start to learn how to use these cards. So unlike most oracle cards, where there's a straight message, keyword kind of thing, you actually need to know the phases of the moon and what each one is about when you're working with this deck and when you're doing readings with this deck. It will make it so much deeper. And for me, I tend to use these as energy gauges. So for instance, sometimes I'll get a client to pick out 2 cards. One is at the beginning and one is at the end. So the beginning one is the energy you're in right now, and the end one is the energy you're going to be going into. And I sort of gauge as to how long you'll be in this particular phase, and then before this other phase happens, kind of thing. So for instance, have faith in your dreams. We have a waxing crescent moon. So that's a moon that is growing. So have faith in your dreams. It's right after you've made the plans, maybe, and maybe you're having some second thoughts. So this is a good time to remind someone, yeah, no, you picked the right path. You're going down the right way. So I like when this shows up, especially when people are questioning, am I doing the right thing? What career path should I go down? That sort of thing, Then we've got you and your loved ones are safe. New moon in Cancer. So you need to know a little bit of astrology, or at least the zodiac signs. So this is a really sort of complex kind of oracle deck. So you need to know what each oracle sign is about. Like Cancer, for instance, came up here. Where is it? Cancer. So that's the crab, right? So that's, Cancer people tend to they're very nurturing. They're sort of the mother or the father of the zodiac. Like, they're very nurturing. They love home. They love the idea of family. They love gathering things together. They like to be snug as a bug in their little homes and that sort of thing. They love coziness. They can be very romantic. They're very caring kind of individuals, right? So knowing that, because that's a different kind of new moon than, say, an Aries new moon. An Aries new moon is all about fire and moving forward and just take the step already and that sort of thing. Way different energy from a Cancer. So knowing the zodiac signs is important for this deck. There's another Cancer. New moon in Virgo. There's Virgo. So another new moon. That's again about beginning things with that Virgo energy, right? So Virgos get lost in the details. They love details. I'm a Virgo ascendant, so I know about details. And people are always like, wow, you really are detail conscious. I'm like, yes, I am. Virgos love beauty. They have a beauty about them that's, well, Virgo the virgin, of course, right? That's very virginal and innocent, that sort of thing. They tend to be a little hyper about their health. Okay, so for a different one, we've got the full moon in Capricorn. So Capricorns are interesting because they can't decide whether they're earth or water. They like both. They tend to excel in both kind of energies as well. They're very sure on their feet. Capricorns are old before their time. They're kind of born as old people, old souls. They have sort of this innate wisdom about them, but they do tend to be worrywarts, and they will worry themselves into an early grave if unfettered. But they are very sure of themselves. They tend to attract money. That doesn't mean they hang on to it. It means they attract it. Capricorns often get big lump sums of money in their life. Just, here you go. It doesn't mean they're good at hanging on to it. They are good with money when it's other people's money. So they're good in management kind of positions because they make good leaders as well. They're a cardinal sign, and they're a cardinal earth sign. So they do tend to make very steady, sturdy kind of by the book leaders for the most part. Then we've got, full moon in Aries. There you go. I'm a double Aries. So, so I know about Aries. Luckily, my Virgo tones me down, and so does my Taurus. So I'm a double Aries, Taurus, Virgo. Yeah, because I'm a cusp, so I've got 4 signs in my signature. So a fiery approach or a fiery climax approaches in full moon. So when you get this kind of full moon, you know, yes, it's about making wishes. Yes, it's about gratitude, but something fiery and exciting is about to happen, and be grateful and ready for it, kind of thing. Aries are the ram. So we tend to ram into things. We can be a bit of a bulldozer. We're very childlike. Unlike the Capricorn, who's old, we're very childlike. It can be to our best interest, and it can be to our detriment as well. We tend to go where angels fear to tread. We tend to leap before we look, that sort of thing. But we're always up for something new. We tend to be fun. Much like Sagittarians are fun, Aries kind of have that fun element as well. So we've got also bring love into the situation. This is a new moon in Aquarius. So Aquarians tend to march to the beat of their own drummer. They get to the same end as everyone else, but they do it in a very different, unique way. So yeah, and Aries are often mistaken as a water sign. Even some Aries think, or not Aries, Aquarians. Sorry, this is Aquarius. Even some Aquarians think they're a water sign because of the water bearer, but they're not. They're an air sign. So they do tend to think things through. They love technology. Someone who's absolutely gaga over technology probably has Aquarian in that house or in one of their major, like sun, moon, or ascendant kind of signs. And then we have other cards that aren't necessarily astrology plus a moon phase, right? So this is, you know, new beginnings. The messages bring love, but it's a new beginning. It's Aquarian, so you need to know what the new moon means, what Aquarian means, and then incorporate that message. So like I said, there's a lot of layers to this deck, and the more you know about astrology and the moon phases, the deeper this deck reads. So I'm very lucky that I'm an astrologist, and I love the moon. I've always loved the moon. I've always loved space in general. So I studied the moon even before I got this deck, and this deck really drew me in. So like I said, they're not all necessarily astrology and moon phases. There's the waxing moon, and energy is gaining momentum. So waxing moon, you need to know waxing is growing. So it's growing into that full moon phase. So that there's no sign needed here, but you do need to still know the moon phase and what it means. So the energy is gaining momentum because waxing moons are about growing into that big full moon, which is, you know, the horn of plenty, the time when, you know, things come into fruition and that sort of thing. And then also too, you need to know about north nodes and south nodes, which is another part of your chart. So step out of your comfort zone. You've got the north node here. So the north node is also often called the head of your dragon. So that I do dragon readings as well for people. They're in a type of an astrology reading. So I do dragon reading reports. And what you find in your reports when you get it from me is what the head of the dragon is what your goal, purpose, or purposes are when you came into this life. Because before we came into this life, we agreed to do certain things, take on certain karma, pay back different debts, achieve certain things, and that sort of thing. But then we go, you know, through the whole birthing process, and we are baby, and then we go off to school, and, you know, and we forget everything that we said we were going to do a lot of the times. But that's the reason why you're drawn towards certain things as well, because you've agreed to it. So somewhere in the back of your mind, you kind of know. It's just pulling it forward. So when I do a dragon report, I'm telling you where the head of your dragon is because you placed it there on purpose to help you achieve your goals and dreams and all your contracts, your sacred contracts, in the head of your dragon. The tail of your dragon is what's known as the south node. There is a south node card in here, and the tail of your dragon is where your strengths are from past lives, things you've already achieved, things you know how to do. So the tail of your dragon is where your power really lies. Like if you're a naturally born leader, then you've probably been a leader in a past life, and that's a strength that's in your tail. Now, the only problem with the tail is sometimes because we already know it and it comes easily to us, we want to live in our tail as opposed to moving forward into our head. So you can fail a life and sort of have to repeat it in a way. And that's if you live in the tail of your dragon and you're only doing what comes naturally or more easily to you. Because we tend to avoid lessons. We don't want to learn lessons. They're hard. And we don't want to learn them. So sometimes we avoid the head of our dragon. It's just like in high school, right? When you'd pick different courses, you know, like math, okay, I'll take math because I have to. But, you know, it's like, but I'd rather be playing the flute in music, or I'd rather be doing art, or I'd rather be doing this, that, or the other thing. So sometimes when you're picking those courses that you've picked already for your head and tail, you want to just always do those courses that are in your tail, and you start skipping classes for the head of your dragon. That's where the trouble happens. So now, let me see, what else? So we've just got a new moon, just a straight up new moon. That means good things are coming, new things, a new start is coming. It's often a relief card, I call it, because when I say a new beginning or a new start is coming, most people go, oh, thank God, you know, because maybe they've been going through a really hard time and a cycle is about to end. So in a way, this is almost like a death card, but it's not. Like, we go through a lot of little deaths in our life. Like if you leave one job to go to another job, it's a bit of a, you know, a death for that job, because you probably, you know, had some fun there. It did put food on your table. Even if you're going to a much better job, you still kind of mourn that death, or that job, I mean, because, you know, there were probably co-workers that you made friends with. Maybe there's some that you wanted to get away from, but there's some that you'll miss. Maybe there's certain things about the job that you'll miss that aren't at the new job. The new job might pay more, but the old job still put food on your table, you know, at least, kind of thing. So there's, like I said, there's lots of little deaths that we go through in our lives, and it doesn't even have to be as dramatic as a new job kind of thing. It's just, you know, even giving away clothes to Value Village when you know, clean out your closet. It's the death of those clothes for you, you know, and it's a new beginning for someone else. So there's the South Node card that I was talking about, and it says don't let your past hold you back, because the South Node does talk about your past lives. So when you get a dragon reading, you often hear about some of your past lives and what you may have been. It's not as specific as a past life regression. It's not like, oh, you were, you know, an American soldier in Vietnam or something like that, or you were Cleopatra, as everybody wants to be. But it will talk about, you know, like you were a leader, or you were this, or you were that, or you tended to do this, or you had a big family, or maybe you were one of many in a family, kind of thing. There's the Void of Course. I often talk about this card. So this is the Void of Course. So Void of Course, even those that know about the moon often don't know what Void of Course means. So it says nothing will come of this situation. So when the moon goes into Void of Course, it's kind of like a mini retrograde. And the moon goes into Void of Course many times over the month. So it's not like, you know, retrograde of planets where it's there for a long time, or, you know, everyone knows about the Mercury retrograde, or a lot of people talk about it. No, don't sign things. Very much the same with the moon. When you get into an argument, you know, it might be because of a Void of Course that's happening with the moon. So it's always good to know when this happens. You can get different calendars to know when the moon is in Void of Course. It can be there for a few minutes, or it might be there for a few hours. It's never there longer than 24 hours. It's not there for days at a time or anything like that. The moon moves pretty quick. And like I said, it's not even going to be there for 24 hours. But sometimes you'll see it goes into Void of Course at 9:27 p.m. and it doesn't come out until 5:38 a.m. kind of thing. So, you know, so that's the night not to have the big talk with the husband or the kid or whatever, right? Because nothing will come of this situation. Like I said, it's kind of like a little mini retrograde. When the moon goes into Void of Course, it's not a good time to text or email or send a letter or have a talk or sign a contract, anything written like that. It's very much like Mercury in that way. Communication is probably going to go sideways when the moon is in void, of course. Like I said, it could be a few minutes, it could be a few hours. And there are calendars that tell you when the moon is in void, of course. So when this one shows up in a reading, though, I often say, okay, who is it you want to talk to? What is it you're thinking about signing? You know, is there something you're thinking about writing down? Now's not the time. And then I'll give them a gauge as to how long that might last. And whether it's at the beginning or end makes a difference as well. Now you can pull a card, a moon card for each of the tarot cards if you want, and get a general idea of the energy around each card. Because if it's a full moon, then it's time to open up, time to be grateful, time to let those wishes fly. If it's void, of course, time to shut up, time to just go to bed and don't talk to anybody. If it's a new moon, it's time to start things. Balsamic moon, that's the time for healing. So that's sort of a thin moon kind of thing. Here's what I was looking for. First quarter moon, that's a challenging time. The first quarter moon is always a challenging time. Sometimes the 3/4 moon can be as well. But the first quarter moon, definitely. That's the time when you feel like you're hitting your head against the wall. That's when you're frustrated at every corner. When you feel like there's a black cloud following you around. Often look at the moon because it's often a first quarter moon kind of thing. So that means it's half, right? So sometimes people get that confused. Doesn't mean it's a quarter moon. First quarter, so the first quarter is like from here to here, and this is half a moon, right? Because now it's going into third, and then fourth is the full moon, right? So what do you need to release? This is the waning moon. So it's accompanied by the season winter, because winter is often a time of hibernation, waning moon, a time of letting go, releasing, maybe resting, because you're going to be going into a new moon, right? It's always changing. Blue moon. So this is a believe in the impossible, because it doesn't happen very often. There's 13 moons within a year. Most of the time, there's 13 moons. And at one point or another, there's going to be a month that has 2 moons. And when it has 2 moons, the second moon of that month, of that calendar month, is called the blue moon. So it depends on where the moon is and when it is. Like, for instance, this September 2020, of the year 2020, the full moon was actually quite early. So it's called the corn moon when it's that early. Normally the full moon is, 2 or 3 weeks into September on the calendar, and that moon is called the harvest moon. But it's not called the harvest moon this year because it was so early in September, because the harvest moon marks when when we're digging up the potatoes and picking the squash and the pumpkins and things like that, right? So this was a corn moon because of its placement in September. Now in October, we're going to have 2 moons. So the second moon is the full moon, the blue full moon on Halloween, and the first full moon is October 2nd, if I remember correctly. Might be October 1st, actually. 1st or 2nd. So keep that in mind. October this year in 2020 has 2 moons in it. Then this is just the full moon. This one says surrender to the divine. And that's what I love, because when the moon is at her fullest, that's when the goddess is at her fullest as well. When she's more open herself, just as we should be. So she's raining down on us whatever blessings we want, we need, or we deserve, kind of thing. And this is a good time to just surrender and receive the gift. A lot of us don't know how to just let go and receive a gift. We've also got new moon eclipse. So eclipses are very powerful, especially in this deck. And it says expect powerful change. New moons are about that change, maybe a new project, or maybe a new way of doing something, or perhaps, a slight change in a project you're already working on, but it's a little bit of a deviation, that sort of thing. So that's what this is about too, the new moon energy, which is typical of, new paths, new openings, new opportunities, new ways of doing things, new ways of thinking, that sort of thing. But when you tack on an eclipse with it, then it becomes extremely powerful. So it might be a big sudden change, in a good way, not a bad way. We've got the third quarter moon. So remember I said the first quarter moon are about those challenges and frustration and stuff. Well, the third quarter moon can be a little like that as well. So it's the other half of the moon, right? It's in a waning phase, and it's about adjustments are required. So maybe, you know, there's adjustments in the way your attitude is, the way you're thinking, you know, sort of walk a mile in someone else's shoes and see things from their perspective. Often when this card shows up in a reading, not only are adjustments needed, but I say there's something you're missing. Whether you don't have all the information, whether you're refusing to look at all the information, there's something you're missing, and your judgment or your decision might not quite be exactly precise and where you need it to be because you're missing some of that information. The mutable moon. So nothing is set in stone. So this is a moon that's sort of all over, and, you know, I mean, even Mother Moon can get a little flaky sometimes, right? So you'll see the big waves and the crests on the waves and that sort of thing. So when this card shows up, it's often like, just go with it. You know, it's going to be rough and tumble for the next little while, but just go with it and know that you're going to come out the other end. It's going to be all good. All good. Just go with it. Now's not the time to make big decisions. Now's not the time to, you know, fix your stance and say, this is how I'm standing and I'm not changing. Go, bend. Now's the time to bend. Now's the time to go with the flow. We've got the super moon. You know, when the moon is really close to the earth and, you know, you go out at the full moon and go, oh my God, that's such a big moon, or it's so bright or whatever. So super moon. So we get that occasionally as well. And emotions are running high. So it's not always emotions in a bad way, because sometimes people hear that word emotions are running high and think, oh my God, I'm going to be going nuts. There might be a little of that too. You might cry more easily, definitely. But it's also, your passion might be more fired up. And now's the time to take advantage of that extra energy that you have. Maybe you have the emotion of energy, and this is the time to heal. This is the time to, you know, clean out your closet, you know, clean out that addict you've been waiting to clean out, that sort of thing. So, you know, embrace those emotions. Emotions aren't always a bad thing. They tend to get a bad rap, you know, you're so emotional. This might also be a good time to tap in to your psychic abilities or into your empathic abilities, because they're going to be stronger, much, much stronger. New moon in Sagittarius. So we're back to the astrology and moon phase. Saggies are the hunters and the philosophers of the zodiac. I always say they're more philosophical when they have a couple beers in them. And I've never met a Saggy I didn't like. They've got luck on their side when it's in the new moon. So that's a good card to get, luck on your side kind of thing. We've got the next Sagittarius one, which is the full moon. And it says, look at the bigger picture, right? So maybe you're getting lost in the details a little bit. Happens to the best of us. A disseminating moon, which is the phase of time to breathe out, time to kind of go, it's okay. You don't have to worry. Let go of those worries, that sort of thing. Gemini. Communication is key. New moon in Gemini. So Geminis are the storytellers of the zodiac. They also are the twins. So a lot of things start to come in pairs when you've got Gemini energy around you. Listen to the stories that are being told to you. Compose the stories that are inside of you. Tell your story, even if it's just to yourself. Then we've got the full moon in Taurus. I love this card. I think it's so pretty. The moon is green and pink. And that's because Tauruses love beautiful things. They might be the bull, but they're like Fernando. Remember Fernando, who would just sit and smell the rose? And that's all he wanted to do. That's what Tauruses remind me of. Fernando the bull. I can't remember if it was Looney Tunes or Disney that did that one. But anyways, your dreams need a practical plan. Because Tauruses, their god, or goddess in this case, is Venus. So I'm a Aries, Taurus, cusp, Aries, Virgo. So I have Mars and Venus as my god and goddess in the zodiac. And Mars was actually the lover of Venus. He would do anything for her. He was absolutely dedicated to her, despite the fact that she was married to the god of the underworld. He was her side lover, and they were very much in love. But Venus, she loves the aesthetically beautiful. So if you walk into a Taurus house and you think, my God, this is a great house, you're probably in a Taurus house. Because they tend to build things. They tend to be collectors. Cancers can be collectors too, but Tauruses are collectors of like fine art, fine wine. They like the expensive side of life, but they like quality over quantity. So they're not all about getting 100 bottles of wine if it means getting 5 really good bottles of wine. That's where Tauruses tend to go. Then we've got the good old Libra. A new romantic cycle begins. Of course, Libras are always about romance. I call them the James Bond of the zodiac, because Libras are about balance. They love balance. They tend to be perfectionists, but they're very romantic. They're probably one of the most romantic signs. But they do drag their feet when it comes to commitment and relationships, because they want everything to be just so. But they can wine you and dine you like no other sign. Yeah, they're really good at it. Tauruses are good at it too, because they have a good taste. But Libras, they're smooth. Oh, they can be charming. Oh my God, they say exactly what you need to hear. They just seem to know. So new moon in Capricorn. Capricorns tend to be workaholics. I talked about them a little bit earlier, about how they're strong and steady on their feet. They adapt to situations very quickly. Nothing throws them off very well. They don't always show their emotions though. They can be a little like Aquarians that way. Not exactly aloof. It's hard to read a Capricorn emotionally speaking, because they always feel like they have to be stoic and strong. Now, like I said, they can be workaholics. The secret of Capricorns, though, is they are the best in bed. A lot of people think Scorpios are, and Scorpios are very sexual. They're great in bed, absolutely. Aries, Scorpio, and Capricorn. Capricorn being the best. An untold gem in the zodiac there, because Scorpios, you know, when a Scorpio walks in the room and you think, damn, he's hot, or damn, she's sexy, that's probably a Scorpio man or woman you're looking at, because they tend to exude the energy of just sexiness, you know. Just, that's not sexy, but you know, that's I'm trying to mimic a Scorpio. But they always have that sexy kind of vibe about them underneath. Even when they're not being sexual, it's always like, wow, they're really, you know, I love that energy, you know, like, they seem to have a lot of chemistry with almost everybody. But like I said, the Capricorn is actually the secret lover, really good lover in bed. Now, Pisces, we haven't talked about Pisces, so let's do Pisces. Meditate and contemplate, new moon in Pisces. So Pisces are the fish, as you can see. They're the water. Their element is water. They're very spiritual. They're actually one of the most spiritual ones. Scorpios can be very spiritual. Scorpios' waters run deep. And when you're in a relationship with Scorpio, sorry, I'm digressing here a little bit. Yeah, not only are they known for their jealousy, but they are very attached to someone that they decide, this is the one I want to spend the rest of my life with. Their waters run very deep. Pisces waters run deep as well, but in a different kind of way. Pisces are extremely spiritual. They're probably the most psychic and empathic of all the signs. It comes a little more naturally to a Pisces. They tend to be very good psychics and very good empaths. Doesn't mean, you know, someone who's a Gemini can't be a great empath or psychic, because they're all muscles we have to work, but it just seems to come more easily and naturally to a Pisces. The only downfall about Pisces is that they tend to be up in the ether a lot, so they tend to not always be flaky, not so much flaky, they can be flaky, but they tend to be lost in their dreams, in their meditations. You know, they're always talking about the euphoric feeling of the ether and all that kind of stuff. They connect very easily to that kind of realm. They're very much in their crown chakra, but because of that, they're not always well grounded. So they often need grounding. so that they're not always floating away kind of thing. So that's the thing. And Pisces are very sensitive, and I'm not meaning this in a bad way, but they often can't handle the rigors of the regular world. They're not stoic like a Capricorn who'll just put their head down and go. They tend to be a little more easily damaged. So you have to be careful with a Pisces, and they need to be cherished, because they're, they can be strong in their own way. Don't get me wrong, because when they're up in that ether, and if there's any kind of negative influence or demonic kind of influence, the Pisces will definitely face that head on. But it's the everyday really getting up at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. to go to work. That's what kills them. So, that's what a Pisces is all about. But, often, like I said, the card says meditate and contemplate, because that's the home ground of Pisces. So when that comes in, usually it means in a reading, it means it's time to slow down and be still. Pisces are very good at engaging in that be still energy. And for a lot of people, it's really hard. A Virgo, for instance, who's very energetic and always finds it very hard to be still. A Pisces is just like, they're all about the Zen. They're Zen. Sagittarians want to be Zen. They talk about Zen. They can get there, just not as easily as a Pisces can. Let's see. Hold your vision. So this, unlike the mutable moon, this is a fixed moon. So it means this is the time to stand your ground. Hold your vision. Don't sway from it. Don't bend. It's not the time to bend. So when this card comes up, it's often like, yeah, you're right. Clients love this card because I'm telling them they're right. And yeah, you're right. Stick to your guns. Go down the path you're going down. You're doing good. Cardinal moon. So that's, like I said, the beginning of a season. So spring, summer, winter, fall, depending on where we are. And it says be bold and make the first move. So it's a little bit like a new moon, but it's for an entire season. So often when this card shows up, I'll say for the next season, maybe the next couple months or 3 months, you're going to feel like it's all starting time. And it is. It's all about starting. It's all about getting started. It's going to take you, you're not going to get started in a day and just go. It's getting things in place to get started, and it's going to take you a little bit of time. So be bold and make the first move, and keep making that first move, because it's going to be with you for a little while. So win-win outcome is forecast. That's the Libra full moon, all pink, or actually more purpley. So that win-win means like you're both going to win. The compromise is going to happen. The scales are going to get balanced. This is awesome. That sort of thing. Oh, we didn't do full moon in Leo yet. So Leos, the sign of Leo. Oh, they love the spotlight. They will be the one that, gets on stage and rallies the troops. They're good at that. Leos usually have very good hair too, because they're Maine, right? They don't get angry easily, but when they do, watch out for their roar, because it will scare the bejesus out of you. So the full moon in Leo, don't let your pride get in the way. They can be very prideful. Again, they love that spotlight, but it can be used for good as well as bad. Leos do tend to like to know that they're giving a good presentation. They're very good at as far as they're very mindful of, looking good and doing what is needed and that sort of thing. So like I said, and they're not afraid to get in front of a microphone, to get in front of a crowd. Most people get stage fright. Leos often don't, because they can speak up. They'll speak their mind, that sort of thing. And they love attention. But they can be generous as well. They're very generous. They've got really big hearts for the most part, and they have patience, which is like just unruled patience kind of thing. They're probably one of the more patient signs. Tauruses can be patient because they will wait for the best thing to come along, kind of thing. So that is the Moonology deck. So I hope you enjoyed it. I didn't show you all the cards as promised, or as I promised I wouldn't, because when you get your own deck, there'll be a few surprises in there for you. But like I said, do definitely read the manual. Go and watch my Moon and Her Magic, the Phases of the Moon video that I have up. I'll try and put the link in the description for you as well. And I'll put the link for this. I just got her date book. So she has a date book that's a Moonology Date Book. I'll put the link for that as well for 2021 in case you want to get it for yourself or for anyone else as a Christmas present. Any other moon or astrology fans that you might have or know in your family or in your friends. And I want to thank you very much for being here. I hope you'll click subscribe. I haven't been very good about that. I've been told that I'm supposed to be saying this. So click subscribe and click the notification bell. When you click the notification bell, you get a little notification saying that I've put up a new video so you can come and check it out, kind of thing. And subscribing helps me as well keep doing these videos. You can follow me on Instagram at Lady Rose Tarot. I'll put the link below. I have an Etsy store if you want to support me by purchasing one of my Etsy makings. I'll put the link for that as well. You can also follow me on Facebook. That's another way to support me. I'm Lady Rose of Goddess Garage on here, but on Facebook, I'm Goddess Garage Tarot Parlor. And again, I'll put the link. And if you want to make a tip for me, I'll put the tip jar as well there to help me continue to do these videos for you, and I appreciate any support you send. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy your Moonology deck.